Hey, everybody, this is Amazing Fantasy Football. I am Josh, and that guy over there, the Gandalf to my Saruman, is...
Chris, we're mortal enemies? What?
Sure, I've been watching Lord of the Rings a lot, so, the extended versions, too. I'm 8 hours into Lord of the Rings,
Ooh.
and I haven't finished all 3 movies.
I think that deserves a round of applause, folks.
I've never seen the extended
Not that they're
versions,
not great movies. I'm just saying.
I've never seen the extended versions, but and I haven't
Really?
watched the regular movies in forever, at least 2 or 3 years, right? And I'm surprised that I can pick out where the extended where the added scenes are, or the cutout scenes, whatever. However you want to
pick it out. See,
I'm like that's not in the original. That's not in the original.
Yeah, I bought them.
That's not.
And rewatched them a couple times for sure, all the way through. So
and they're on HBO Max, so
Oh, okay. It's been It's been more than 2 or 3 years since I have done it, but I had done it all the way through before you because I owned them on. I think I eventually got the Blu-ray ones too. Anyway, I digress. That's not what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, we're here. We're here to talk about something fantasy-wise, but that's fantasy football, not Lord of the Rings.
Yes, so, wrong fantasy. Start the show over. No,
nope, I'm not starting over again. How you doing tonight, Chris?
I'm doing great, man. It's holiday season. It's right before New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and we finish up Christmas. I've got my family home, my wife and my 2 daughters here because no school, no work, and I couldn't be happier because they just got back from grandma's.
Eyeball deep in debt because of Christmas.
Yeah, no, we're doing all right.
Okay, good. So, you did it right then. You didn't do it like some people that are just like, oh, we'll just get them everything, and then we'll hopefully have it paid off by next year and just repeat the cycle.
No, that's
literally how some people do it.
That was the last 2 or 3 years before that.
Okay.
I joke, kind of.
Ish.
But no. Holidays is the time of year to give thanks.
To become eyeball deep in debt.
For what you do have. And not when I say that, I don't mean your material items. I mean the people that you have in your life, be it friends, be it family, be it both.
I've got no one, Chris. No, that's not
that is not true, folks. So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at. I'm trying to be as thankful as I can and remember this as I get into the new year and we make new commitments for the fantasy football show. We make new commitments for our personal lives and we try to have a great year.
Are you proposing to me?
No.
Oh.
I don't swing from that side of the plate.
Okay.
Maybe in practice, but
not that there's anything
not
wrong
in the
game. All right, so it's week 17, Chris. It is the finals. What are you doing for New Year's, real quick?
I have 0 plans. Yep,
yeah, me too.
That's pretty much how it's going to go down. We might do something around the house with just the kids, but I don't get out much as it is, but
me neither.
I can have a good time at home too, so it's cool.
I can't.
It's not worth the risk as far as
COVID,
drinking and money and COVID and just the whole kit and caboodle, man. I'll be good here unless
of it.
I take that back. Maybe we'll have some neighbors over or vice versa, and do something that way. We got a new addition on the way across the street. But again, that's neither here nor there. We should probably talk some fantasy. And
what kind of rumor are they adding onto their house?
I didn't say rumor. I said, what did I say? Another.
You said addition. What are they adding? What part of their house are they adding onto?
The child part.
Oh, that's not very fun. I thought
it's a lot of fun.
I thought that maybe they're building like a 3 seasons room or like a sunroom, a sauna, I don't know, a game room. I don't know, man. You said addition. I got excited for some home improvement. And then you said it was a child. I was like, I don't care about that. Let's move along to some fantasy football talk. It's week 17, Chris. It's the finals. Are you in any finals, Chris?
No, I'm
loser.
Not.
I'm in one. It is in our dynasty league. If you were to see my roster at the beginning of the season,
that's frustrating. What the heck?
Well, we had the finals for Friends with Benefits last week.
Oh, that's
and
right.
Lost.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And then my team got real injured in the Superflex League, right in the semis. So I didn't have a hope last week.
You fielded a lineup. That's all you did.
That's all I could do last week.
Yeah, that's what
it was bad.
Say, yeah.
I'm not complaining. That was the story of my team.
That's the way that cookie crumbled. Hey, man, this is as we discussed off air just a moment ago, it's a very enjoyable league. We have a lot invested in it. Even though I'm playing the quote losers bracket, I have a chance to win my league fee back for the year. But more importantly, like we've been having pretty good communication since you've been in the league, and hey, nobody expected you to make it this far in your first league. Regardless of
me, especially, I was like, no.
Like two parts to that: being new at Dynasty, and your roster. We didn't think was actually it was okay, but you had a couple of huge injuries right off the bat, and we thought you were done. We really did.
And then I made some sort of unknowingly made some sort of Faustian deal to make it this far. Like,
yep.
Yeah, it's uncanny. Let's get going with the show, man. What's your first matchup?
I got one that's going to go pretty quick. We'll just get this out of the way quickly off the top here. Giants at Bears. Saquon Barkley is the only worthwhile fantasy option on the Giants, and he hasn't been very good since returning from an ankle injury.
He also hasn't been practicing either.
Yeah, we'll get to that here in a minute, I think. Previously, at least, his floor was fine, but the last 2 weeks versus division opponents has shown us how low his floor actually is. He's averaging 3.5 yards per carry on the season and has scored once since returning from injury. Look elsewhere if you can. If you must, I guess he can be a flex option versus Bears defense giving up the 8th most rushing yards on the season and just gave up big days to Rashad Penny and DJ Dallas. I'm going to give him 1.5 stars. Apparently,
I don't think he plays this week, dude.
How bad is it?
They're talking about shutting him down for the season.
I think that's more of a we're not playing for anything. We're done. Which is
he's also injured too.
To your point, is still means you can't use him. But no, I apologize. I didn't get much on his injury here.
I'm looking it up right now. Keep talking, and we'll circle back around.
On to the Bears. David Montgomery losing targets to a receiving back seems to no longer be an issue, as he's averaging 5.3 targets per game and 20.9 touches since returning from his ankle injury in Week 9. With that kind of volume versus a bad Giants defense giving up the 8th most rushing yards and the 8th most fantasy points to running backs, I led Montgomery as a top 5 running back this week. 4.75 stars. On to a couple pass catchers. Yes.
Finish off the matchup, and then we'll circle back.
On to a couple of pass catchers here. Quick note about Allen Robinson. He says he is still, quote, still trying to feel normal, end quote, after a bout with COVID. He revealed he lost 10 pounds. I just wanted to throw that in there to, first of all, encourage
folks to get some COVID.
Yeah. First of all, to encourage folks to wear masks and get vaccinated. Second of all,
I am and do.
Me too. Second of all, to just to give it a little bit of a long-term lookout here for the off season. Let's see. Hopefully he feels fine. Hopefully he doesn't have long COVID, and hopefully he's still a good football player. Yeah. Although he's had a really bad year outside of COVID, I will say.
Very forgettable year.
Yeah, on to Mooney. Mooney is the only fantasy option here outside of Montgomery and Fields in a super flex, I guess. However, Fields missed last week due to injury, and if he can't go, I am benching Mooney. If Fields does play, you would still need to be desperate to start Mooney. I'm going to give him 1.5 stars. And that's it for the Giants at Bears, except for we wanted to touch back on Barkley's injury real quick.
I was wrong. He's not practicing because it sounds like that he's still managing his ankle injury, but he's probably going to play this week. And okay, then so you're right. I was wrong in my face.
No, I can't get this to refresh. There it goes. Got in a limited.
Is David Montgomery like a top? I don't know.
It hurts me to say it.
Pick
next year.
Top
well,
5?
There's attrition first because you got to throw in CMC and Derrick Henry for injury reasons. And I don't care what you say about being a doctor or not being a doctor. The injury history is there. So they're going to move at least a couple spots. Maybe not a couple rounds, but a couple spots. So, yeah, I think by attrition, Montgomery starts to creep into the first round. Into first round, I would hope. Top 8 back. Did you say top 8 back? Or top 8
I said
pick?
Top 8 pick.
Oof. A little rich, off the top of my head, on the spot.
Is it
I'm
though?
Say no. I'm going to say no. Top 12, yes. Top 8, no.
Wow. Anyways, okay.
Hey, what if Pollard is the starting running back for Dallas next year?
He won't be.
I'm just throwing a literal insane hypothetical out there. Is he a top 12 pick? Is he a first round pick?
It would depend on if they move to get another person to replace Zeke.
What if they don't?
They would.
So it's still Montgomery over Pollard in that crazy hypothetical.
For
I'm just trying to make a point with Montgomery. I don't think he's top 8 yet.
Okay. So that's the end of your thing. Let's move on to the next matchup, which is the Jacksonville Jaguars at the New England Patriots. So let's see if I can get this going here, Chris.
What's the
Dare
spread on this thing?
Agungabawale. Agungabawale. According to ESPN.com, Daria Agungabawale is sitting atop the Jags depth chart at the moment. After James Robinson went down with an Achilles injury last week, Daria rushed for 17 times for 57 yards and a touchdown. Not all that efficient, and that was also against the Jets too. This week it's the Pats. And they have a very average run defense. It was better at the beginning of the season, but they seem to have kind of been dealing with some injuries here and there. Here's another thing too that I think a lot of people are not really factoring in is that I think that it's not going to be all Daria Agungabawale. I think we can see some Mekhi Sargent, go Hawks, and also maybe a little Reichwell Armstead as well this week. So I'm going to give Daria Agungabawale 2 stars. I really just don't think it's the greatest matchup for him. In a team where you don't really have to worry about Trevor Lawrence and really much of the pass catching options, they're going to try and take away the run game, I think. So let's move along to Mack Jones. Nope. Damian Harris. Did you know what? Did you know last week that he ran the ball 18 times for over 100 yards? I didn't write it down exactly, but it was over 100 yards. And 3 touchdowns. That was in a loss too.
Dude, I had to bet my
against the Patriots, but it was against the Bills.
I had to blink my eyes and be like, did I start him? Because I have him like everywhere else but the Dynasty League.
I'm not predicting that he gets 3 touchdowns this week, but I think Harris can rack up 100 yards and maybe even a touchdown against the Jags, who are allowing an average stat line of 24.5 attempts for almost 100 yards and 0.87 touchdowns per game. So I like me some Damian Harris. I'm going to give him 4.5 stars. Nice. It's not a 5-star because I think Ramondre Stevenson is going to come back and get a few touches, just enough to.
I was going to say what. Yeah, I was going to ask about his stats.
And Harris doesn't get any work in the receiving game too, so he has to get it all done on the ground because that's Brandon Bolden's job. Is that who it is nowadays? I don't remember. It doesn't really matter.
He's the third guy. Yes. Person.
Yeah, Hunter Henry. I'm going to give him 3 3/4 stars. Henry had a quiet day last week against the Bills, but in the 2 weeks since the Pats bye, Henry is averaging 7 targets per game. Not bad. I know it's a small sample size, but in a world where tight ends are pretty terrible, you could do worse than Hunter Henry in a mediocre matchup. The Jags are giving up 5 receptions per game and a little over 50 yards too. So, and Hunter Henry also gets the 7th most red zone touchdowns out of all tight ends and 26th most out of all pass catchers in the league. That's not bad at all right there. That was wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs.
That was red zone targets, correct?
Yes.
So obviously they're drawing up plays for him. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So that's not all that bad. So 3 3/4 stars for Hunter Henry. That is a better than
that feels like a 7.5. That feels like a 7.5 point floor and a 13.5 point ceiling.
Maybe 17. You catches a couple touchdowns or something like he did against the Colts. Not a lot of yards, but
I'm saying 1 touchdown is your ceiling there, but
it could be a couple.
It could be 2.
He had 2 against Colts.
I mean, again, I was interested in the point spread there because that's a lopsided matchup in favor of the.
Yeah. What's your next matchup, man?
Rams at Ravens. Let's move on to the quarterback for the Rams to start things off. Stafford flat out let us down in a smash matchup versus the Vikings last week. I thought he would be a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and I was dead wrong. Not that I was alone. Stafford had a 56.8 completion percent, under 200 passing yards, threw 3 picks, and had a fumble for a cherry on top there for you. Apparently, the Vikings heard Josh wanted Mike Zimmer fired and played inspired defensive football.
What?
Seriously?
No.
I thought you wanted Zimmer and what's his face fired.
I just said Pete Carroll. I've never said anything about Mike Zimmer.
I think you forgot about a conversation several weeks ago.
No.
Play along, Josh. No, I'm seriously. I do remember us having conversations.
I never said fire Mike Zimmer. I said fire Pete Carroll.
Well, I'm saying fire Mike Zimmer. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. Apparently, the Vikings
don't put your Mike Zimmer hate on me.
He should be fired. They played inspired defensive football. But seriously, this is an anomaly. And I'm jumping right back on the horse or the Ram. I don't recommend jumping on Rams. Just to be clear, anyway.
You might get
we've been beating this drum for like half the season. The Ravens are not good on defense. In fact, they're among the league's worst. Injuries have hindered their ability to field an average defense, much less an elite one. They're dead last in passing yards allowed and second to last in fantasy points surrendered to the quarterback position. I'm giving 5 stars to Josh's real MVP, Matthew Stafford.
No, that's Jonathan Taylor.
You can't take it back.
Stop putting words in my mouth.
You were locked into the beginning of the season. On to the running back duo, I guess you could call it. Not much of a duo anymore. More crow for me to eat here. While Sony was great, Henderson was downright awful. I had hoped both backs could produce. Now, with Henderson heading to the IR, Sony is headed to Fantasy Valhalla, thanks to his late career surge. McVay and the Rams offense continues to find value late in the season with veteran running backs with fresh legs. Now, while the Ravens have been atrocious in terms of pass defense, they have managed to give up the least rushing yards in the league. How much of that is a fact that they can easily be passed on? I'm not sure. Still, Sony has an elite level usage and production lately. He's averaging 22 and a fourth carries, 105.75 rushing yards, and 0.5 touchdowns per game over the last 4 weeks since taking over for the injured Henderson. I am giving Sony 4 stars. Nice. And of course, Henderson's done. You like how I went from fractions to decimals in one sentence? I'm
sorry. I'm picturing, you said fresh legs, and I'm picturing someone like on the sidelines of the football game and going, legs here. We got our fresh running back legs here. Get your
hot peanuts here. Get your hot peanuts and your cold beer.
And Sean McVay's like, ooh, I'll take 2.
I'll take 2. Give me Sony Michel and CJ Anderson, and I will win the gosh darn Super Bowl. Thank you very much. No, we'll see, because he didn't win it with CJ Anderson, but hey, I digress. On to the pass catchers. While Stafford was lackluster last week, Cooper Kupp was fine, catching 10 of his 13 targets. And again, Baltimore is decimated with COVID and injuries, leaving a bad secondary. No reason Kupp shouldn't dominate this week as probably the wide receiver one. 5 stars for Cooper Kupp. I put /ODB, and forgive me, I didn't put anything on ODB, but I feel like he's got upside for a touchdown. I don't know what it is with that. Clearly he has touchdown upside every week, especially in this matchup.
There's only one game that he's played in with the Rams that he hasn't scored a touchdown. Well, I'm not saying that that's a smash play for him this week. Kind of sounds like it, and
it was literally a smash play for him versus the Rams. They're awful on defense Ravens, right now. Yeah. I'm sorry, versus the Ravens. Sorry, the R confused me. Forgive me. I don't have a ton on ODB, but again, he has been a weekly.
We'll call it 4.25
top 36.
Stars.
Let me finish. He's been a weekly top 36 player, easily flexible every week with touchdown upside. So yeah, 3.25 stars. On to the Ravens. Lamar was able to get in a limited session on Wednesday, though he was noticeably limping. Tyler Huntley was activated off the COVID list. That news broke this morning, Thursday morning, that is. I wonder if the stellar play of Huntley and the nature of Lamar's injury push Harbaugh and the Ravens to sit Lamar one more week. Mobility is a big part of not only Lamar's game, but the Ravens' playbook also. Let's look at the Rams' defense before I give some speculation as to who starts at quarterback. The Rams have improved on defense over the last several weeks. They're now 11th best in passing yardage surrendered, 6th best in rushing yards surrendered, and tied for 5th with 42 sacks. They have also given up only 1 passing touchdown in the last 4 games to the likes of Kyler, Russell Wilson, Cousins, Kirk is his first name, Cousins, and Trevor Lawrence. If Lamar does go, I'll give him 3 stars due to my concern over the ankle. I'll give Huntley 3.75 stars if he's the guy that starts, and get him just on that cusp of a top 12 quarterback this week.
Let let me interject here real quick. I just looked up Lamar Jackson. It says here, Lamar Jackson took a step forward on Wednesday as he returned to practice field on a limited basis, but he may have taken a step backwards on Thursday as he was not present at the start of practice today.
Oh, great update, Josh. Thursday. Thank you very much. That's good.
So that doesn't sound good.
Given my analysis here, it's good for Huntley managers. I hope
Tyler
a lot
Huntley,
of those
Ravens quarterback of the future, Tyler Huntley.
No, I'm definitely not going that far. Definitely not going that far. I'm
Bold
just
statement.
saying, if Lamar has a bad wheel and they still put him out there, I think he's a 3-star guy, not a top 12 quarterback. And I think if Huntley, obviously coming off just COVID protocols, he's not sick, he's not injured, 3.75 stars, because I think he'll be more mobile than Lamar, which just sounds crazy to say. I get it, but that's where I'm at this week. On to the running back for the Ravens, Devonta Foreman. As mentioned, the Rams are 6th best in rushing yards allowed, but they have given up 5 rushing touchdowns over the last 4 weeks. But at this point, you shouldn't rely on Foreman. Weeks 11 through 14, he was averaging 19 touches a game. That's great. Since then, he's averaging 7.5 per game.
Yikes.
Bench rating for Devonta Foreman. On to the receivers. Rashad Bateman was able to score last week and went over 100 yards back in week 14. And had 2 80-yard weeks. Those are the only times he has sniffed double-digit fantasy points. Hollywood, despite his target numbers looking great all year, 9.3 per game, has been as volatile as ever. All the Baltimore wide receivers have a much too low floor to rely upon, but if you're desperate, Hollywood might be okay. I'll give him 2 stars.
Against the Rams.
On to the guy we really care about here, Mark Andrews. Now for the hottest man in the league. Wait,
Hercules.
Not that way. Just like he's playing well. Like not he's hot. Well, he's probably anyway. Mark Andrews has been an absolute.
He's not a bad looking feller.
Mark Andrews has been an absolute tear the last few weeks. Over the last 3 weeks, he's averaging 11.3 targets, 125.3 yards, huge for a tight end, and 1.3 touchdowns. 1.3 touchdowns and 20.5 fantasy points per game with backup quarterbacks. Baltimore will have to throw. Proof. Exactly. Baltimore will have to throw no matter who is playing quarterback, and when they throw to Andrews. The question isn't whether to start Andrews. The question is whether he will be the tight end 1 again this week. 5 stars for Mark Andrews. And that is your Rams Ravens. That's your Ramvins. That's your Ramvins. Yep.
Yeah, why don't you keep workshopping that one? Next up, we have Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New York Jets. Tom Brady, he gets the eternal 0 stars, of course. Why would you want to start a 44-year-old quarterback? It's not like he has 6 Super Bowl wins or a supermodel wife, umpteen victories against my stupid Colts.
Couple of
For
Super Bowl
though,
rings,
he probably gets 3.5 stars if you really want to start this loser. It is a plus matchup for a quarterback who has been disgraced into being backdoored into Subway commercials. The Jets are allowing the 5th most points to opposing QBs. Why only 3.5 stars for Bruce Arians' puppet, you might ask? Well, even without Mike Evans, COVID, still on the COVID list as of earlier today. Chris Godwin, ACL, and the former shill for Hulu should be able to get up big quick with Rojo, AP, and Gronk. If they do get it big early, if they do get big and early, it can also be one of the on the back of the defense or Ronald Jones. TB12, more like too bad 0. On to Ronald Jones in the first game without Lenny Fournette. Rojo was the lead back, but he averaged just 3.3 yards per attempt for a total of 65 yards and a touchdown. He got a few targets from his dumb QB, but nothing significant. It's a great matchup for Rojo, so I'll go 4 stars. This is mainly matchup based, but not based on the average talent of Ronald Jones. I'm sorry, did you have something to say?
I was surprised when you said targets were so low. I don't have them in front of me, but I thought he had a pretty nice fantasy day. So with the 65 some odd yards, I believe you said rushing, I was surprised.
And he only got, and I said a few targets, which means 3.
3. Yeah, literally means 3. Yeah, okay. But you still gave him 4. So I was
and like I said, it is based on the matchup, not his average talent.
Right.
Let's move on to Lev Bell here real quick. He got some work in the game last week. It really wouldn't surprise me if Arians went back to his old ways of pulling old bait and switch, having Lev Bell be the feature back and not Ronald Jones. Unless we hear different, though, don't start Lev Bell. I say pick him up if you were a Fournette manager, or even if you're counting on Rojo, just in case COVID runs through the Bucs locker room and Rojo can't go. That's the only reason I picked him up in Dynasty, because I have Lenny Fournette, who is not going to play this week. But in case Ronald Jones doesn't play, Lev Bell against the Jets, why not? But I mean, don't, unless you hear differently, don't start Lev Bell. Don't jump the gun. Don't
too early. Don't.
It's more of a have him on your roster just in case. Antonia Brown, the man, the myth, the guy who apparently doesn't like to pay his chef. I don't know. AB's off the field shenanigans aside, he got 15 targets from Brady last week. He got 10 of them for 101 yards. I'm not sure how he didn't score with that much work, but he didn't. I like AB again this week, 4 stars. On to Gronk here. Gronk's been suffering from a bit of the dropsies, I guess. He's been getting targeted a lot and hasn't really been doing a lot with them because he's been dropping the ball. Gronk was a big disappointment last week. But the Jets are giving up the 9th most points to tight ends. Gronk hasn't topped 9 fantasy points since week 13, though. That's 3 weeks of not very good. But I think if you have Gronk, you're going to start him. Even if you're playing for all the marbles this week, I'd still be starting Gronk for with a 3 3/4 matchup. Chris, what's your next matchup here? Also notice that I am skipping over every single Jet player. Yes, even Michael Carter.
He's been kind of bad lately, hasn't he?
He's been okay, but it's the Tampa Bay is a really good run defense.
Yep, that's a very good point. Yep. Yeah, and other than that,
just don't do it.
Yeah,
if you're playing for anything meaningful, are you really in a position where you're starting a Jets player? No, you're not. What's your next matchup, man?
The next matchup is gonna find it, hottest man in the league. Okay, it's below that. Falcons at Bills.
Thanks, I know.
Cordell Patterson. I didn't type up anything on Matt Ryan. Don't care.
I don't know why you would.
Exactly. The Swiss Army knife, Cordell Patterson, has put up 2 bad games in a row now, with awful rushing average. Let me finish. With awful rushing averages of 1.6 and 2 yards per, respectively, in these 2 games. He has been incredibly inefficient. But to make matters worse, his usage declined before that. I think the success of Gage and Pitts has cut into Patterson's do-it-all role. Weeks 1 through 9, Patterson was averaging 5.88 targets per game. Since then, he's down to 3.17 per game. And in particular, the last 2 weeks, he's seen an average of 2 targets per game. That honestly makes him more of a running back than a wide receiver. A running back that's been bad 2 weeks in a row. A running back that's about to face what was arguably the best rushing defense at one point this season. Since then, the Bills have given up a bunch of yards and rushing scores. But still, Patterson terrifies me. I'm going to give him a bench rating in the championship game.
Yeah, for sure.
Russell Gage. As I said, I think Gage and Pitts have eaten into Patterson's receiving work. Prior to a dud last week, Gage was averaging 9.25 targets, 86.75 receiving yards, and 11.2 fantasy points per game. Still, Buffalo is elite versus the pass, despite losing Tre'Davious White to injury. They are the best in the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns surrendered. Just a desperate 1.5 stars for Russell, a.k.a. my name is not Justin Gage. Well, on to Kyle Pitts.
That's called a callback to a previous episode.
Dude, when I typed it up earlier today, I was like, Justin Gage. I was like, God dang it, his name's not Justin. Who is this character in my head I can't get rid of?
I think we established that he played for the Tennessee Titans back in the day.
Like 15 years ago. It's hilarious.
Well, like 10, but still.
On to the rookie, Kyle Pitts. Pitts can't seem to find the end zone.
Mr. Unicorn.
But still, he has been putting up great yardage totals and will probably set the rookie tight end yardage record. But more elite Buffalo defense. More elite Buffalo defense talk here for you. They are third best giving up fantasy points to the tight ends. Still, will that type of volume at the poopy tight end position I can't type apparently, Josh.
Still, I know that. I know.
Still, with that type of volume at the poopy tight end position, I'm going to give Kyle Pitts 4 stars. On to the Buffalo Bills. Pretty easy here with Josh Allen. The Falcons give up a ton of points. The third most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Josh Allen is probably still the quarterback one. I'm going to give him 5 stars this week. On to the apparent, workhorse running back in Devin Singletary here. The Falcons give up the 9th most fantasy points to running backs. I honestly thought Zach Moss was on IR there for a whole minute, but seriously, he's been a healthy scratch 3 times in the last 5 weeks and only had 3 rushes last week. He is as good as dead to us, not in a bad way, just in a fantasy way. Singletary has averaged 81% snap share over the last 3 weeks. He's going to get 3.5 stars versus this not very good Falcons defense. On to Stephon Diggs. He is what he is at this point in the season. He's a low-end wide receiver 2 with upside almost every single week. He didn't show up last week without Beasley and Gabe. What's his last name?
Davis.
Just, a little bit more disappointment. But again, don't gloss over the fact that he's still a wide receiver 2 with upside and a good offense. The Falcons give up the 4th most fantasy points to wide receiver position. So I'm going to give Diggs a optimistic 4 stars. On to Dawson Knox.
So Knox
has been ice cold for a couple weeks, but I see a get right matchup here versus the Falcons. They've given up huge days to good tight ends in Gronk and Kittle. I think Dawson Knox makes it double-digit touchdowns on the year this week. 4.5 stars for Dawson Knox, and the loss of literacy for Chris. Apparently, not literacy, just talking. What do they call that?
Yeah. Are you having a stroke over there, buddy?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
That is the end of the Falcons at Bills, because the Falcons didn't take that long.
And let's hope we don't. But that break in between really took forever.
Hour and a half later,
we went down an Urban Dictionary rabbit hole there. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, and Chris and I had a weird conversation that no one ever needs to be privy to.
No one. I'm going to blame it on the internet problems and just say it was technical difficulties. Cheers. On to your next match.
Well, we literally did have technical difficulties.
Yes.
Anyways,
technically had technical difficulties. Sorry.
Technically, there were technical difficulties, but technically speaking, we did go down a technical rabbit hole of difficulty. Anyway, on to the Kansas City Chiefs at the Cincinnati Bengals. Patrick Mahomes, after hitting a midseason slump, Mahomes has over 20 points per game over the last 3 weeks. And one of those weeks, he has over 30 points, by the way. The Bengals haven't allowed an opposing quarterback to top 300 passing yards since Halloween. And only twice since then has a quarterback top 275 passing yards. Kelsey should be back this week along with Tyreek Hill too. I don't know. I thought he played last week, but maybe he didn't. I don't remember. I saw some conflicting reports. He had a stat line. I'm very confused on the whole situation.
I'll look into it real quick. Go ahead.
I like Mahomes to stay red hot this week, so I'm going to give him 4.25 stars just in case the Bengals actually defense continues to step up and really kind of holds them back. CH, he is questionable as of writing this yesterday with a shoulder injury. Sorry, I forgot to look that up. Maybe Chris will be nice enough to check into that for me while I continue this matchup. It is initially feared that CH broke his collarbone, which he didn't. MRI results showed swelling in his shoulder, but no break. If there's significant swelling in his shoulder, that means that there's probably some sort of ligament damage at least, or at least some sort of bruising or whatever.
This is a layer, right?
Yes, this is CH.
Still a layer. Would you mind if I interject real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Layer was not present at practice on Thursday.
Yeah, it was sounding pretty doubtful when I wrote this. I actually wrote this on Tuesday. So let's move forward with the assumption that he doesn't play until we hear differently. But if he's not practicing on Thursday, not sounding good. So let's move forward with Daryl Williams here. In the games where CH has not been able to play, Daryl Williams is averaging 15.4 fantasy points. That 15.4 has been a bit of a roller coaster. 3 good games, 2 bad ones. This could be one of those bad ones for Williams. The Bengals are giving up only 16.5 points per game to opposing backs. It's eighth fewest. Sprinkle in a dose of Derek Gore, who has been getting some touches as of late too. So it's not the greatest for Daryl Williams, although I might have to rely on him in our dynasty matchup or championship this week. So, but 3.25 stars for Daryl Williams based on what he has done without CH in the past. And he was getting some okay work with CH in there too. Like he's had some production, not like you must use him sort of production, but he has produced fantasy points even with CH there. Tyreek Hill, I'm going to give him 4 stars. Not really sure why. I didn't write anything down. I'm assuming it's because he's usually tethered to Patrick Mahomes' production.
Sure.
5 stars for Travis Kelce. 5. Wow, you're contagious. I'm having problems talking over here.
I didn't mean to give it to you, sir. My apologies.
Travis Kelce, 5 stars. Mark Andrews just ate the Bengals defense for lunch last week, and that was with a 3rd-string quarterback for the Ravens. So 5 stars for Travis Kelce.
I like it.
Any other Chiefs receivers this week? Nah. No thanks. Let's move along to Joey Bagels. Mr. Bagels had himself a game last week. 38.1 fantasy points. Bit of a problem this week, though. The Chiefs haven't given up more than 250 yards through the air in 2 months. 2 months. About the same as the Bengals. They're only allowing 1.5 passing touchdowns per game, too. Joey B is probably going to have to keep up with the Chiefs this week. So there's a chance for a bigger day, but I'm going to just go 3.5 stars here for Joe Burrow, but we like to call him Joey Bagels for
Joey Bagels.
I'm not really sure why. I'm pretty sure I wrote that in
it sounds
at like
freaking great
in the morning.
Josh,
very
that's
tired.
all that matters. That's all that matters.
What's that?
It sounds great. That's why we do it, and that's all that matters.
I have no idea how I came up with it though. So maybe it was you.
We'll make it up as we go. Me. He loves bagels.
Who doesn't like a bagel?
I love bagels.
What's your favorite kind of bagel? Blueberry?
Honestly,
everything?
I'm a pretty big fan of a regular bagel with cream cheese on it. Regular Phillies, cream cheese.
My new favorite kind of bagel. It used to be everything, and now it's this Asiago cheddar bagel that they have at the local bagelry here. Pretty good.
Is it really a local bakery, or is it that big one that used to be downtown? Oh yeah, you don't live close to downtown, so it's not that.
It's Burgers Bagels. It's local. It started here in Iowa City.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they have one downtown and over where you're at.
Well, there's one in Corville.
Close enough. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
Anyways, on to Joe Mixon here. The only other way that the Bengals stand a chance on beating the Chiefs is clock burning. The best way to do that is going to be by running Joe Mixon. Prior to last week's point smorgasbord, which I learned how to spell this week, it is Swedish, I think, somewhere in the Netherlands area. Smorgasbord. Mixon has had a bit of a dry spell. The Chiefs are allowing 17.5 points per game. Mixon is more or less the predominant ball carrier for the Bengals, so I like him to get most of those 17.5 points. I'm going to give him 3.75 stars. Probably maybe more like a 4. What do you think about that, Chris? Somewhere in that range? 3.75, 4?
I think he's locked into every lineup out there.
Well, yeah, so, I mean you're starting him, but I mean like it's more of an expectation number.
Yeah,
it's more of an expectation rating than a start rating.
Yeah,
what's that?
Mixon's been. I think he has a great chance on RB1. I think he might have had a dud in the last few weeks, but dude, it's Mixon. He's money this year. Money.
He's like the RB 3 or 4 on the season.
Thank you. Exactly. He's the Mixon we've been waiting on for 4 years. For goodness sakes.
Yeah, well, having a healthy Joe Burrow there has really helped him. The offensive line has gotten a little bit better this year too. Let's move along to the wide receivers for the Bengals, though. Tiggins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd. Even I'm gonna give you their ratings, and then I'm gonna kind of lump all their analysis in together. I'm giving Tiggins 3.75 stars, Jamar Chase 3.25, and Tyler Boyd at 2 stars, and I'll tell you why here in just a second. It's hard to say exactly what to do with these receivers. That's why I kind of rated them where they are. Tiggins gets the best rating because he's been great. I mean, like borderline elite level production from Tiggins. I mean, depending on your scoring system and your league and everything.
Eyeball test, he looks phenomenal, man.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like he is looking better than Jamar Chase was at the beginning of the season. Chase and Boyd, though, they're becoming victims of Tiggins' ascension into. Until last week, I gave Chase a borderline starting grade because there's always that touchdown chance with him, you know. But the Chiefs wide corners are really, really good. They are surprisingly elite level this year, according to PFF, of course. But like even like watching them, they're like these guys are pretty good. Boyd's probably going to go up against Mike Hughes, who is a top-notch slot corner this year. Boo-hoo for the Vikings by cutting him, and then Hughes signing with the Chiefs, who has really actually kind of played to his strengths by making him play corner slot instead of outside. So that's why Boyd gets the 2 stars, and Jamar Chase, yeah, you're probably starting him. Don't expect the moon. Tiggins, he's almost matchup.
I'm sorry, what was Chase's rating?
3.25.
3 and 1/4. Okay. I don't hate it. Not at all.
You're starting him, but you shouldn't.
Yeah, you almost have to. Top
world.
36 kind of guy. Like he's in your lineup in most every situation. But Tiggins has been. I like how I corrected to the incorrect version of his actual name. Tiggins is. Again, I know eyeball test doesn't necessarily equate to fantasy points, but he looks like a number 1 man. He really does. Makes you wonder if they'd have taken the tackle instead in the draft. But Chase has been amazing. Also, don't get me wrong.
I mean, this upcoming draft is supposed to be very, heavy in the trenches kind of level of talent. Not a lot of
on the line. You mean both sides of the ball? Yeah. But also, I feel like there's some running back here, a depth here for
here and there. But like that's not what the Bengals are necessarily looking for, though. They're looking.
I think there was was it USC or Texas or both kid to come out? I don't have the names off the top of my head. We've got a lot of off-season stuff to do. But anyway.
What's your next matchup, man? That was the Kansas City Chiefs at the Cincinnati Bengals.
I have got the Dolphins at Titans Yeah. Got a little bit to go over here with the quarterback and the running backs here on the Dolphins side of the matchup. With the Miami defense playing well, the Dolphins have gone a bit run heavy in the last 2 weeks, which has capped Tua's upside a bit. They are still 8th in the league in passing attempts on the year, but have averaged only 26.5 attempts and 197 passing yards the last 2 weeks. But now they get the Titans, a team second best, only allowing 86.7 rushing yards on the season, yet are bottom 10 in both rushing yards allowed and fantasy points given up to quarterbacks. All that is to say, I expect the Dolphins to throw more in this one for obvious reasons. Their matchup is easier to throw against. However, Tua's ceiling has been low this whole year and pretty much his whole career up to this point. I'm not starting a quarterback averaging 1.3 touchdowns per game on the season in the playoffs. Superflex, sure. Top 24 guy, sure. 2.5 stars for Tua.
Yeah.
On to the running backs. Well, 2 weeks removed from a 2-touchdown, 17-point fantasy performance, and Miles, that's 2 miles, 1 Gaskin, apparently stood up the coach's daughter. No, but seriously, he must have done something wrong, or that's just it. He hasn't done much of anything with his opportunities. He amassed a whole 3 carries while Phillip Lindsay and the corpse of Duke Johnson both had 13 last week. You can't use any of these guys. I'm benching all of them.
Yeah.
On to some pass catchers here. Really only one worth talking about here. Jayla Waddle is the lone bright spot for this. Maybe we can dig that.
He should get it, man.
Maybe we can dig into that in the next show or something. I don't know. I don't know. Isn't there like a quarterback doing well?
Not really.
Okay. Anyway, Waddle is the lone bright spot for this team, fantasy-wise. Over the last 4 games, he's averaging 10.5 targets and has either reached over 90 yards or scored in each of those 4 games. He is a must-start and a high-end wide receiver 2 this week. 4 stars for Jaylen Waddle. No worthy of mentioning any other pass catchers there with the Dolphins. On to the Titans.
Not Gesicki?
No, he's pretty
okay.
bad.
No, sorry. No, it was worth mentioning. Go ahead.
Absolute garbage, actually. The Titans. On to Ryan Tannehill here. Similar story with Tannehill as there was with Tua. Just too low of a ceiling to rely on Tannehill here in the playoffs, if not in the championship game. In fact, most of his fantasy viability outcomes have come from his rushing touchdowns. He has 7 on the season. That's great. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's great. Like, tune into that, and take advantage of that if you're streaming during the regular season. But that's just not reliable. And the Dolphins have been playing great defense lately. I'm going to go and bench Ryan Tannehill there. On to the running back, Devonta. Right?
Deonta.
I had both of them tonight, to be fair. Deonta Foreman for the Tennessee Titans running back.
Did you want to real quickly, did you want to fight me on that
road?
Also just briefly be like, you're wrong, but then
no, the ironic thing is it's not even the same last name. It's Freeman versus Foreman. It's not even the same, except you could put the consonant in a different spot. Anyway, on to Deonta Foreman. Despite sharing time with Deonta Foreman, despite sharing time with Jeremy McNichols and Hilliard, he is still the back you want due to his guaranteed early down work. Coming into last week, he was averaging 18 carries and 12.5 fantasy points per game. But last week, he only had 9 carries for 17 yards. Plus, as mentioned, Miami has been playing great defense as of late. They have averaged 80 total yards given up to the running back position and 0 touchdowns. Surely that's over the last few weeks. That doesn't seem right. We're going to go and move on.
Sorry, what did you say?
I'm saying they have averaged 80 total yards given up and 0 touchdowns per game to running backs, the position. But I don't think that's the whole season either. But I will guarantee...
I don't think so either, and don't call me
I will guarantee you it's a very large slice of the recent history. Like, it's been the last several weeks. It's been good. They've been very good. So don't get it twisted. I am staying away if I can, but he is just outside my top 36. This is important to mention. That's flex territory. Keeping him somewhat in that conversation at 2.25 stars. But again, outside the top 36. Look elsewhere if you can. And that's it for the Titans, man. There's not a whole lot else to do there.
So,
I'm sorry. I take that back. I mean, AJ Brown is back, right? So,
yeah, dude.
My bad. He had a great week last week. My apologies.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, but again, it was his first week back in a long time, so I was a little separated from it, to be fair. No, but against a team like the Dolphins, again, playing really good defense on both sides of the ball, rushing and passing. But he's got to be more flex-worthy than these other options I've talked about in terms of running backs. So I'm going to give him a 3.25 stars. And
that seems reasonable. Here's what the Dolphins have given up in the rushing the last 4 games they played, because they had a bye week in the middle of these 4 games. Smack dab in the middle. 64, 91, 102, and 80 was against the Panthers, the Giants, the Jets, and the Saints.
That's a lot of yards.
So,
what about touchdowns?
That's the flaw of this spreadsheet here.
Oh, my apologies.
I'm a victim to this spreadsheet. I'm not going to lie. It's not the greatest. It's the first one that I knew where I could pull it up real quick. So that's not bad. It's not great. It's not bad either. Let's keep moving here. What's my next matchup, Chris? My next matchup is the Las Vegas Raiders at the Indianapolis Colts. Let's start with the Raiders quarterback here, because I at times have, if you're streaming in your finals, then you're a very me-esque person, but you're probably not by this point. You've probably settled into a quarterback at this point.
Even you're smarter than that. Come on, you've picked up a guy at this point. Yeah.
I keep saying that I'm a quarterback streaming guy. I really have, like, the last 3 seasons.
Oh,
I've been finding a quarterback early, either in the draft or very early on in the season, and I've just been kind of sticking with them because I've been finding some real diamonds in the rough. Like your Kirk Cousins or your people sleep last year in our keeper league. People were sleeping on Aaron Rodgers, so
you've been drafting a starting quarterback. You've been drafting a top 12 quarterback late,
very late. Mm-hmm. People are taking backups, and I'm
okay.
Now taking my starter.
Enough.
Anyways, let's roll with Derek Carr here, just real quick. For sake of time, let's keep moving here. Derek Carr, he has not been a very good fantasy quarterback since the Raiders week 8 bye. He has had 2 games over 13 points in that span. He has played some tougher defenses in those 8 games, and Indy might be one of those on paper easier defenses, easier teams he plays. But Indy does allow a big play here and there. But the Colts D can be pretty stout at times, especially in the passing game. I know Indy is allowing the 10th most points to quarterbacks, but that number has been slipping. At one point earlier in the season, they were allowing the 4th most points to quarterbacks. So they're getting better. Because of this and the fact that without Wentz, I don't think the Raiders are going to be getting into a shootout this week. So 2 stars for Mr. Derek Carr. Speaking of 2 stars, also that for Josh Jacobs. Indy's run defense is rock solid. Also, Lionel Richie should be back playing middle linebacker for them this week. And Josh Jacobs isn't circle of friends, we call Darius Leonard Lionel Richie. Inside joke. Chris, maybe don't even remember that on draft day like a while back. But Darius Leonard should be back this week for the Colts, playing their defensive field general there. Jacobs isn't the kind of running back to overcome a bad matchup, so only 2 stars for Josh Jacobs this week. On to Hunter Renfrow. I'm going to give him 3 stars, and this is why. 65.5% of his snaps this season have been from the slot position. That's where the Colts slot corner, Kenny Moore, lives. Since becoming a slot corner, Kenny Moore has been a bit of a badass. He was openly petitioning the NFL to make slot corner an official position in the Pro Bowl so that he could be listed as a starter for the Pro Bowl this year. That didn't really work out for him, but, he still tried.
I think if you're going to have that conversation, you have to also have a tight end / slot receiver conversation. But
Renfrow has had a downturn in targets the last couple of weeks. That could continue here. Is anyone really starting in? I mean, if you're in your league championship and outside of like a real big league, are you really starting Hunter Renfrow? I'd try and find another option if I can, but I'm still going to give him 3 stars.
It's probably less than borderline. 3 stars is pretty slightly aggressive. Slightly aggressive.
It is.
Ever so slightly.
I went a little bold on that one. The Raiders are optimistic. Waller will practice Wednesday. I have checked back before recording, which I did, and Waller is on the COVID list now. So let's move along to Foster Moreau. I have it written down here. If Waller can't go, which it sounds like he's not going to, Foster Moreau is going to get 3.5-star rating. He hasn't been a smash plug-and-play player that I was really hoping after Darren Waller went down for injury. But the last couple of weeks, even though Moreau hasn't scored, he's racked up 10 and 8.7 fantasy points. That makes him slightly better than touchdown dependent against the Colts D that is giving up the 4th most points to tight ends. So I think you can start Foster Moreau this week. I mean, would I start him over a what's the guy that I was thinking of? Gronk? Probably not. I'm still going to start Gronk.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Let me keep going in the matchup, and then I'll kind of give you some more names here because we're going to talk about some Colts tight ends here in just a second. Carson Wentz, he's got COVID. Why? I forgot to look if. Just listen.
Sorry.
All right.
Okay, you're right. I should. I will.
Carson Wentz has COVID. That means that Sam Ehlinger, their rookie quarterback out of Texas, I believe, Chris, right? Texas quarterback.
Correct.
Not the strongest arm feller in the world, but he's got some legs, so he'll be. There might be some design runs for him in this game. He, like I said, Carson Wentz has COVID, so it's probably going to be Sam Ehlinger. Jonathan Taylor, 5 stars. It's probably, I don't know. Last week, the Colts went into their matchup against the Cardinals down 3 starting offensive linemen. That was their center and their 2 guards, and they were on their right tackle was also out for some reason. Then Eric Fisher got hurt in the first half of the game, and
right.
and JT still managed to rack up over 100 yards against Arizona's 6th best defense as far as fantasy points given up.
I'm giving that man my MVP vote. Period.
The
team has
Raiders
no
are
business
on the
being
other,
in the playoffs without
the
him.
Raiders are on the other end of the rushing defense spectrum. They're giving up the 7th most points per game to opposing running backs. I'm going to give Jonathan Taylor 4.25 stars here. I said 5 stars. I changed it mid writing this. This is only because the Colts might be without Carson Wentz. There's still, apparently the NFL has adopted the 5-day guideline that the CDC has put in effect this week. So there's a real outside chance that Carson Wentz starts in this game? Probably not, though. So 4.25 stars. I mean, I'm in a real catch-22 here, Chris. I want to see the Colts win. They lock up a playoff spot if they get a win here over the Raiders this week. But I also need the Raiders defense to really hone in on Jonathan Taylor and hold him to absolutely as few points as possible to win the dynasty championship.
In your only championship game. Dude, if you win the championship in your rookie season, just...
I've told you, Faustian, some sort of unknowingly Faustian deal that I made, and my soul will belong to some sort of evil wizard or something. Let's go to Michael Pittman here. 2 stars, no Wentz, no thank you, but you might have to start him if you have him on your team, especially in bigger leagues. Jack Doyle / Mo Alley Cox, or Mac, as I like to call him.
Wait, I'm sorry, is Wentz playing or not?
It sounds like he's not going to.
Because of COVID protocol.
Yes.
Does he actually have COVID? I think he's a fringe quarterback. That's important. I'm sorry.
That's what I'm wondering is that, like, how many of these, and I actually have this in a different matchup, is that how many of these players that are on the COVID list are just testing positive? They're either asymptomatic or is it false?
In the fantasy blurb, they usually say it literally what it is. They either say they're in the protocol or they are positive or negative. Or I'm sorry, positive, I guess would be the only res.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
But if you're unvaccinated and you're in the protocol,
Wentz is for some reason.
Yeah, I don't even want to go down this path tonight.
Yes, please.
Short on time. Not. All I'm saying is that because he's unvaccinated, it's an unreasonable amount of time, depending on how you look at it.
It's an extra wrinkle in him playing this week, which I don't think he's going to. But if he
That's what I was getting at.
If
Thank you.
Wentz were somehow able to play this week, Jack Doyle, Mo Alley Cox, take your pick. Mac has 1 more red zone target than Jack Doyle. They both have 3 touchdowns within the red zone. Why am I getting a spam call right now? Both of these guys have about the same snap percentage too. Give me Jack Doyle, who has 3.5 more fantasy points on the season than Mo Alley Cox. 3 stars to both of them. If Wentz were to play, if he were to play,
both of them. Wow. Okay.
For reals, man. Like
if
it's like the
Raiders
are giving up like the second most points to tight ends, and normally I don't care that much about tight end defenses all that much, but when
I like Doyle a little bit better for red zone reasons.
They're getting a lot of red zone targets.
Even though like Cox is a giant human being.
Yep, I believe another podcast calls him Gigantor, which I do not. But
not that Doyle is a slouch of a run blocker. I think that might have a lot to do with Taylor's success. Good tight end on the perimeter helps a lot. Where are we at?
I'm looking at this transcription of this spam call. That's the end of that matchup, though. Like if Wentz were to play, and you need a tight end, I would say Jack Doyle. But if Mo Alley Cox is available and you have some schmo at tight end that you're really unhappy with, think about Mo Alley Cox or Jack Doyle for reals. Like, I'm very serious about this. Either one of them could get a touchdown this week, and maybe both, if Sam Darnold were to play, or Carson Wentz. Sorry, I don't know why I said Sam Darnold there. What's our next matchup, Chris? Let's keep it rolling. Rolling. Gonna keep this show on rolling.
Eagles at the Washington football team. On to Jalen Hurts. Washington just
I'm sorry, the what?
I said Washington football team.
I thought you said the Bills, and then you said Hurts, and it's really the Eagles, and I misheard you. I'm sorry.
Eagles at the Washington football team.
Yeah. My bad. Sorry.
Washington just got torched by Dak and the Cowboys. Jalen Hurts just lit up the Washington football team for 296 passing yards and 3 total touchdowns and 28.6 fantasy points a couple weeks ago when he played this very same team. He's a top 12 play for me this week. 4 stars for Jalen Hurts.
Chris, your top 12 play for me this week.
Well, thanks, buddy. If you haven't heard, Miles Sanders is out week 17 with a hand injury, but they have not put him on IR yet. I have no idea why. I guess they think they'll make the playoffs. I don't know.
Do they have a chance? Let's see. Keep going.
Mathematically, I have no idea, honestly, off the top of my head. I will say this much about the other options at running back. They should probably be considered against Washington. Really, they are in shambles as a organization and as a run defense.
Really?
And
Really?
I don't. I mean, I say shambles. It's not like they're giving up yards out the
I
rear
think
end.
I think they're decimated with injuries this year, man.
I was going to say, I think they've had a lot of injuries. COVID has touched a few teams, if not decimated a few others. Not necessarily Washington. I'm just saying. Jordan Howard has to be considered for red zone looks, but he's not a very good running back, and he hasn't produced a whole lot lately. If you're absolutely desperate at your top 36 at your flex spot, maybe in a deeper league like a 12 or 14 team league, he's in your fourth. Like a lot of leagues have fourth spot. Maybe that. I would lean towards Boston Scott for the receiving aspect. But I am going to still put him just outside the top 30s. Another
guy in the mix too.
Really? Well, you're going to surprise me with that. I'll be honest, but I'm going to give Boston Scott the nod, but still keep him outside of a flex conversation and more like a outside of the top 36 guy with 2.25 stars for Boston Scott because of the receiving work. I have nothing on any of the receivers, to be very honest.
What about Dallas Goedert?
I was going to say, outside of the receivers, we're going to talk a little bit of tight end talk here. Not a good week last week for Mr. Goddard, as we'd like to call him. And even before that, it was a little spotty. But, since his blow-up week in Week 13 versus the Jets, where he caught 2 touchdowns, that's a little bit unreliable. There's no doubt about it.
Don't play Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So Josh had everything to do with that. No, I'm just kidding. And then he had a bye week in Week 14. Fast forward to Week 15, where he had a fine week, a top 12 week, I assume, with 9 targets, 7 catches, 135 yards, no touchdowns, 13.5 fantasy points. And then just an absolute dud against the Giants. I don't know how to chalk that up other than, an awful division rival thing. But the fact that he played Washington well 2 weeks ago with 13.5 fantasy points and how bad Washington just played against Dalton Schultz and the Cowboys, I'm going to get Goddard in the top 12 tight ends with 4 stars. On to the Washington football team and Mr. Antonio Gibson. I have nothing to say about the quarterbacks. I don't need to apologize for that whatsoever. Gibson.
Sorry, are you saying that you don't have a lick of word to say about Tatum Hannikin?
You mean Trevor Harris? I got nothing, man. I'm sorry. I've tried to play along and it didn't work. I don't know
who Trevor Harris is.
Yeah, okay. Neither do I.
So let's find out.
I'm looking at an interesting sandwich here for Antonio Gibson, and I don't mean ham and cheese. I mean the fact that
Chris?
Yes.
I don't think that Trevor Harris plays in the National Football League. I think he was a professional Canadian football quarterback. He's currently a free agent, so maybe he does play for the Washington football team.
Well, his name definitely isn't Taylor Heineke. I tried to say it right, and I tried to say it right, and I said it wrong. I'm done. So
yes,
there's actually been a couple of what I would call good weeks in a row for Gibson here. But I can't help but look at his rushing statistics versus Dallas in the epitome of a negative game script in a 56-14 loss with 6 rushes. However, he gets 4 targets and catches a touchdown, so saves his fantasy day with 11.8 fantasy points. The week before, another division rival, another loss, but he gets 15 carries for an awful average. I think he got healthy for a minute and he's hurt all over again. And there's no outside threat with McLaren because there's no quarterback to play for Washington. So I think it's really hard to rely on a lot of these pieces.
I don't even know who you're talking about anymore. Sorry, I was looking at Trevor Harris.
Gibson. I'm talking about Antonio Gibson. I'm going to give
Gibson.
Oh, yeah.
You're starting. You might be starting him because you have to, but other than that.
Because you have to. Thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth. Exactly. Because if you can look elsewhere, please do.
2.5 stars is what I would give him. That's
How
me.
much?
That's me.
How much?
2.5.
I'm going to go 3.
Okay. I'm not going to argue.
I take that back. Actually, I'm going to go back 1/4 of a star. I know that sounds insignificant to maybe some listeners or viewers at home, but a lot of my research this week was very splitting hairs in terms of what's important in a championship matchup, and I think you should look elsewhere for Gibson. But I feel a little bit better Because they don't have a whole lot else to go to. But if they can hone in and stop Gibson, it's not going to be pretty. And as far as McLaren goes, quite honestly, I've got nothing because the quarterback has been so awful, and so has McLaren lately. It's been really
I mean, with Antonio Gibson, you maybe at worst spend a 3rd-round pick on him, maybe a 2nd, hopefully not a 1st. But like that was 3.5 months ago. Like it's definitely time to forget and move on that you spent the high draft pick on Antonio Gibson. Yeah, he's been good at times. I mean, championship, you're going to rely on Antonio Gibson?
2.5 from you and 2.75 from me. Was that correct?
Yeah, we're in the same neighborhood though.
Yeah. I mean, so and then McLaren real quick. I mean, he hasn't scored a touchdown since week 11. So therefore, he hasn't even. Dude, I'm not even talking double-digit fantasy points. He's barely sniffed 5 fantasy points in the last 5 weeks. So
it's
I'm going to give him bench rating because of his quarterback situation.
I completely agree.
And that's the end of the Washington football team in more ways than one.
I believe I am on to the Denver Broncos at the Los Angeles Chargers. It still looks like Clippers. I have it abbreviated. Yeah, I have abbreviated every time. Anyways, let's start with Javonte Williams. 4 stars for Javonte Williams. Not Devontae, Javonte. Good luck predicting which one of these guys are going to go off. One of them's going to, maybe both. But I'm going to predict it's Javonte because he has more explosive. He's like number 1 in the league with the most like forced missed tackles or something like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't know how he doesn't get more playing time than Melvin Gordon. Maybe he has something in common with the front office. They're like, we're paying this guy. You're going to play him.
I know Chubb hasn't performed well in like 2 weeks, but I consider Javonte a poor man's Chubb right now because of situations.
I think he's better because he catches the ball better. But I mean,
I think they're both bigger guys and are very good at broken tackles.
Yep. Anyways, good luck. Good luck. If it weren't for the Jets stinking it up against the run, it would be the Chargers who are giving it the 2nd most points to running backs. And that's why I'm saying maybe both of these guys can actually do it with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. I think you're starting both of them. I have a 4-star on Williams and a 3.5 on Melvin Gordon.
Nice.
If it wasn't such a 50-50 split with these guys, I mean, if you wanted to give Melvin Gordon a 4-star as well, I'm not going to argue with you, or if anyone were to. I'm really not going to because it's such a good matchup. The problem is the only problem with this is that it's probably going to be Drew Lock. Sorry, I was like, it's 2 4-letter names. That's not Noah Fant. It's Drew Lock at quarterback again this week. So maybe that's a little bit better for the pass catchers in this game. For the Broncos, Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, but these guys are like unusable right now. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. But let's move on to Noah Fant here. This is bold. It's bold, Chris. 4 stars for Noah Fant.
Woo!
I know Noah Fant. I know he's been
starting tight end.
Trust me. By the way, go Hawks. I know he has been very bad, and he was bad in the Week 12 matchup.
This must be a Drew Lock take.
Went up against each other, but. Can he really be that bad twice in one season against a bad tight end defense like the Chargers? I don't think so. I'm going 4 stars here. I know it's bold. I'm starting him in a league. I know it's not for the championship. I'm still starting him because I think that he can be productive. Let's move along to Herbie. Last week, Herbie did not play his best football. Herbie did not play his best football in Week 12 against the Broncos. He didn't play his best football last week either. But
he hasn't played his best football this season. Seems like he did better in his rookie year.
What?
I say he hasn't played his best football this season. It seems like he did better his rookie year.
Are you serious? Because he is the number 2 quarterback on the year.
Oh, wow. I said seems.
Behind Josh Allen.
I said seems. I know what I say before I say it. I didn't say I knew it to be true. Really? God bless it.
So in Week 12, even though he didn't have a very good game against the Broncos, he still managed to put up 20 points. That's been the story of Herbie this season, man. It is like he'll have a bad game. Like you'll see highlights, him throwing interceptions or turning the ball over or whatever.
Yeah.
And he has what is it? I think it's 4 games under.
I was just gonna say I pulled it up and
5 games under 20 points, but he has He has
Did
a
you call last week a
42
dud
point
with
game. He has a
18.9
30-point
games?
game. He has a 31.6 game. He's a 35-point game. He's been the dude's been balling, man.
If it weren't for last week being in an 18.9 fantasy point performance, he would have had 6 over 20 fantasy point performances. Okay, my bad. He's been really hot lately. Got it.
Yeah. So didn't even give Herbie a rating here. My bad. I'm sorry. We'll make one up on the fly, and we'll call it
Denver.
It is Denver. So I'm sorry. I said 4 stars here. I just didn't highlight it like I normally.
There it is. Okay. Cool.
Nope. That was no fan. I'm still gonna give him 4 stars because that's initially what I was gonna say. Austin Eckler, 4 stars. By land, sea, or air, Austin Eckler will get you there. In the previous meeting of these teams, Eckler couldn't get anything going on the ground, but Herbie targeted him 8 times for 6 receptions, 68 yards, and a touchdown. And the last time these two teams met, I think after missing last week, Eckler is coming back 100% healthy. Remember, he didn't have an ankle injury or something like that before testing positive for COVID last week. So I think that week off really helped his. Even though it was COVID related, really helped his physical body, his physical ailments, really help out. And I want to see Austin Eckler get it done by sea. I don't know how.
Assuming he gets over the illness, his legs and his muscles will be fine, if not reinvigorated.
Yep. Keenan Allen, he's still the only Chargers pass catcher I think you can really rely on here going in a championship week. But against the Broncos, well, he managed 7 receptions, 85 yards last time they played. So I'm going to give him 3 3/4 stars. You're starting the target monster regardless. When I wrote that, I had the Cookie Monster. He's like, T is for targets, which is good enough for Keenan. That sort of thing in my head. But I'm an idiot, so whatever.
But I'm an idiot, he says, folks.
Sorry, I write these things down, and I don't always have the best.
We're all on the same page here. Sometimes
you're an idiot too.
Dicey. No, I didn't say that.
Oh, well, you said we were all on the same page. So I'm like, you're an idiot too. No,
is that it? Is that all you got?
Yeah, something. That's all this idiot has.
I thought I had something to come back and mention real quick about. Did I end up taking my little webpage elsewhere for no unforeseen reason? Well, it definitely wasn't McLaren. Okay, yeah, I got nothing.
I'm taking my webpage and I'm going home.
Next matchup, Texans at 49ers. I'm going to try and be quick. We're running short on time here. All we have to talk about with the Texans is Brandon Cooks. Cooks missed last week thanks to COVID protocols, but in the 2 weeks prior to that, had averaged 7.5 receptions, 101.5 yards, and 1 touchdown per. He is trending
by Cook, 1,000 yards for Brandon Cooks every single season.
Yeah, right. He is trending in as of now, so keep an eye out and tune in Sunday morning for the Amazing Fantasy Kickoff Show at 10 a.m. Central Time. He has a great spot start flex here. The Niners give up the 10th most fantasy points to wide receivers and are fresh off giving up 26 and 19 points respectively to A.J. Brown and Russell frickin' Gage. I'm going to give 3.5 stars to Brandon Cooks to get him solidly in your top 36 in your lineup there. Niners, that's it for the Texans. No apologies there again. On to the Niners. Jimmy G, he's dealing with thumb injury. It's not looking good at this point. He did not practice Thursday. I am not relying on Trey Lance in the playoffs. Bench Lance, and we'll see if Jimmy G can go. If he does, again, outside chance. Given the matchup and his play lately, which has been pretty good, Garoppolo is actually a QB1 for me this week at 3.75 stars. That's right in that borderline, 12, 13, 14, right there, QB1. But again, I don't think...
Give me some good news.
But again, I don't think he's going to go. Similar story with Elijah Mitchell here. More injury. I can't talk. Mitchell has missed the last 2 games with an injury and as of now is trending in. My apologies. Apparently I amended those notes. He is trending in. If he can get at least another limited session in today, Thursday, Josh, if you have a second, look up if you can see anything on Thursday. I'm trying. If he does play, you start him versus the awful Texans. He's 4.25 stars. Yeah, it's a smash play. Again, RB1. right there for you. Josh will update us shortly on his practice participation. On to Debo. Debo was actually seeing horrible target volume for quite a few weeks, but no one really noticed because his efficiency on the ground completely made up for it. Some experts were concerned he couldn't keep it up. Well, that's out the window now because he's seen 16 targets in the last 2 weeks, which, of course, is on the passing side of things, while continuing his great yards per carry average and his efficiency on the ground and scoring once on the ground during this last couple of weeks. It's just ridiculous. This kid is good.
It's what everyone thought that he was going to be last year. And then he was injured.
Exactly. And, of course, you're starting him with confidence versus the Texans. 5 stars for Debo Samuel. Reminder, folks, that's like a top 3 rating there at his position. 5-star. On to Kittle. No. After dominating for a couple weeks, Kittle put up an absolute stinker last week, hurting many fantasy managers in the playoffs, me included.
Oh, my God. You're only saying it because of you and I beat you.
Would you just let me finish? But all is forgiven. You played George Kittle versus the Texans in the playoffs. It's as simple as that. But if you want a little peace of mind, the Texans have given up 3 top 12 tight end finishes in a row, and they give up the 8th most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. 4.25 stars for George Kittle. And that, sir, is the Texans at Niners.
What about Brandon Ayuk?
I got nothing on him.
Okay.
I'm not going to beat around the bush.
I wasn't going to push you on it. Okay, let's.
I would have let you. I don't care. I don't think it's very.
Let's move along to the Detroit Lions at the Seattle Seahawks. I weirdly have a long thing coming up here.
Really?
Okay, DeAndre Swift. He practiced in full on Wednesday. Sorry, I didn't look up today's. It's also hard getting the same day practice thing like before. Man, it's just rough. Like apparently they want to do it. Be like tomorrow. Be like, oh, and yesterday he practiced in full. Like, why can't you just they start practice at 9 a.m. Like, why can't I just find out at 7 o'clock at night? No,
right. It's like I wrote a lot of these today, and I didn't have updates on at least a couple of them. Yeah,
I know. Anyways, let's just go on yesterday. He practiced.
I'm sorry. What player was it
Wednesday.
against there? I'm sorry.
This is DeAndre Swift. This is his first full practice since his injury on Thanksgiving. According to head coach Dan Campbell, we'll shut him down after Green Bay. That's next week, folks. Seattle is giving up 22.5 points per game to running backs, which is prior to his Turkey Day game injury. Swift was getting the lion's share of the snaps. See what I did there?
Yes, nice.
He was in on just 50% of those team snaps, but Jamal Williams was on 33% or whatever. So and Goff hasn't practiced yet, but Tim Boyle did an okay job, I guess, filling in for Goff last week. You're not starting Tim Boyle or Goff for that matter, but he might be okay this week if Goff displays. It sounds like he's not going to. It sounds like it's going to be Tim Boyle again. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Last week, St. Brown, with the backup quarterback, scored 21.5 points. He was hyper-targeted. That was also against the Falcons. Chris, do you remember when the Lions had Rashad Perryman and Tyrell Williams and whoever else they were masquerading as a wide receiving core? I think Josh Reynolds was in there at one point. I gotta admit, I kind of want the Lions to keep Dan Campbell around, and it sounds like they're going to. I got a real positive vibe from him. It's a real roughneck sort of vibe that you get from tough as nails vibe that you get from Dan Campbell, and it sounds like all they need to do is find a starting quarterback and maybe get their defense shored up a little bit. This Lions team could be okay. Their defense hasn't been the worst in the league this year. Anyways, to a Lions team that needs a spark at the head coaching position, Dan Campbell has really done that. He brings a lot of courage, Lions, to the team. Let's circle back around to him.
I'm going to interrupt real quick. I made it a point not to pull out my Valhalla Vikings joke, sir. I just tried to let the punchline roll right over everybody's head, but it was a darn good joke. Continue.
I don't know what you're talking about, but okay.
I just did the opposite of what I said I didn't do, by the way.
And versus the Seattle secondary. Despite being 6'1", St. Brown is a slot guy. He's run something like 80% of his routes from the slot position. Amon-Ra St. Brown is also PFF's 33rd best wide receiver. That's not nothing. He's currently ranked above other wide receivers such as Amari Cooper, Darnell Mooney, Cortland Sutton, Julio Jones, Marquise Brown, Mike Evans, Brandon Ayuk, and Laquan Treadwell. He'll be going up against probably Seattle's best corner, and PFF has it rated as a good matchup. So I'm going to give him 3 3/4 stars in this very lengthy write-up on Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think moving forward, as far as that would be
big
next
picture
season and going big picture, big picture.
It's looking good. It's looking good.
He's a guy that you're going to want on your roster, regardless of quarterback.
Goff is not a bad downfield thrower. Never. In fact, he's kind of always excelled at that. It's just surrounding situation.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp. Do you remember last season when Cooper Kupp was blamed for this downfield pass that would have won a game that Jared Goff threw to him? I think that Goff threw him off target because Cooper Kupp was looking all over the place for that ball. And Kupp got the blame for that pass, and it was definitely Jared Goff's fault.
Fair, but still, I just think big picture, Goff has always had a decent downfield arm. I'm not saying he's the greatest quarterback since sliced bread, or he's even a.
He's a bad. He's a quarterback that needs to be in a very good situation, and the Lions are not a very good situation.
The optimum situation.
Yes, really. He needs a good offensive line. He needs pass catchers. Like he needs a wide receiver that's going to help him, not the other way around. That sort of thing. He's an okay quarterback, not a great one. Let's move along to Jamal Williams. You're probably not starting him this week, so let's keep moving. Craig Ferguson. Is it Craig Reynolds? Craig Daniels? No, I got it. It's Daniel
Joe
Craig.
Smith.
Daniel Craig is going to. No, that's James Bond. Jack
John
Daniels.
Smith.
I don't know what the guy's name is. It's a guy you picked up. Maybe you picked him up off the waiver wire. It sounds like Swift's back. You're not starting whoever Craig Ferguson facsimile, whatever, at running back for the Lions. Let's move along to Russell Wilson, a.k.a. Busty Rusty. I'm sure some people dropped Russell Wilson a while back, but in 4 out of 5 his 5 last games have been more than 16 points. Not the Russ of yore, but, it's not unusable, especially in a 2-quarterback league. The Lions are allowing only 16.9 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. And that's without their top corners. Remember, they had Jeff Okudah and some other guy at corner that both got injured. So they're doing okay against the pass. At least opposing quarterbacks, but that's probably because people get up big and, they don't have to pass the ball on the Lions. The Lions have struggled against better teams in the league, but held close games against some worser teams. And then they also have the unexpected victory 2 weeks ago over the willful Cardinals. I'm going to hesitantly give Busty Rusty 3 3/4 stars. I think that's a safe rating. Russ could easily don an apron and start cooking again, but he can also just kick back on the couch and order some takeout too. So it's a very safe 3 3/4 stars for Busty Rusty here. And I'm calling him that because he was drafted as in the 6th round, the 6th overall quarterback taken, and he is currently the quarterback 22 on the season. Not good. Let's move along to Rashad Penny, who I'm going to give 4 1/4 stars to. In the last 3 weeks, Penny has faced the Texans, scoring 26.3 points. The Rams, 5.4 points. No surprise there. The Rams are good against the run. And the Bears, where he scored 19.5 points. The Lions happen to be giving up 22.9 points per game, which is the 3rd most to running backs. So outside of injury, I'm not really sure how Rashad Penny doesn't sneak into the RB1 territory this week. Sound pretty good? Thanks.
Sounds good.
DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. I'm giving 3.5 stars to Metcalf. It's such a great matchup for all Seattle players. Everything Seattle.
But
Metcalf is he has been very unreliable as of late. Even in gravy matchups, I haven't had the privilege to go back privilege of time in this case, to go back and see exactly what's going on here. I know Metcalf has had a bit of a foot injury, which has probably dampened his play, but that seems to be no longer bothering him. I guess the long and short of it is after being burned by Metcalf by Metcalf for so long, do you really trust him in a meaningful week, which is, championship week? I'm going to say 3.5 stars for him and a bit of a flex capacity. Flex. Sorry, I meant to say flex. Tyler Lockett, though, I'm going to give him 4.25 stars. Perhaps I'm a little biased. Lockett's on my dynasty roster. Championship. But I'd rather go Lockett in this one. While he hasn't been very useful since the Seahawks bye, he has been more productive than Metcalf. 4.25 stars for Lockett. 4 stars for Gerald Everett. And a year of the tight end Dust Bowl, as I'm now calling it, I'll take the 8.3 points per game that Everett has been producing since Seattle's bye. It's not great, but he has been the most consistent pass catcher producer of fantasy points for the Seattle Seahawks. And some of that is without touchdowns, too. So he has been not touchdown dependent. He's just putting up some okay tight end fantasy numbers. It's only 8.3 points. I get it. But that's probably getting you in the tight end 1 territory every week in the year of the tight end Dust Bowl, right, Chris? Like it's
bleak. It's very bleak, sir.
It's bleak. And you know what? I might start him this week in the Dynasty Championship. Probably not, but I might.
Deeper league. But yeah. Hey, can I interject real quick about Swift? I actually spent a bit of your matchups trying to, like you said, you couldn't find any.
Listening to me, Chris.
Well, this. No, I did. I interjected a couple times and commented. All I'm saying is I did spend a bit of that time trying to look up Swift's status, and ironically, I had trouble too finding practice status from Thursday. And then when I do, I assume it's a typo. Let me read. Detroit received very good news in the form of running back DeAndre Swift, who was a full participant during Friday's practice.
What?
I'm pretty sure it's not Friday yet, so I'm going to go with that's Thursday practice. The only other thing I could find, sir, was a Twitter video press conference of his from today that I couldn't listen to because I can't bring up the audio and try to listen to you, and just it's bad news. Trying to do that while I'm recording.
You're trying to watch a basketball game. You're trying to listen to me.
I got a football game.
You got the big monitor going on over there. I mean, it's just
try to eat some pizza rolls. It gets complicated, sir.
Trying to eat some pizza rolls. You're playing some Rocket League over on monitor number 4. I mean, like you got a lot of irons and a lot of fires here.
So it looks like Swift will go. Is as you said towards the end of your
I think that Friday was supposed to be Wednesday because I remember reading something of a surprise full practice on Wednesday, but it might have been again on Thursday too. I don't know, man. Whatever. It sounds like he's gonna play.
I'm getting some positive vibes from the grapevine. I'll put it that way.
I'm getting a lot of negative vibes on editing on internet content. A lot of typos and misspells and just like
really.
Where's the editing in this?
That's awful. You can thank the internet social media age for that, sir. Everybody's in a hurry. On to the Cardinals and Cowboys. Kyler will finish his season as somewhat of a disappointment. I know Josh and I were pretty damn high on him as a top 5 guy, if not maybe the MVP, maybe the QB1.
Whoa. I was never that high on him. What? I mean, roll it back to week 1, man.
3 weeks in, you were like, 3 weeks in, you were like, let me drive that bandwagon.
Prove it.
Nonetheless,
I know that there's literal proof of it.
Nonetheless, he is still quarterback 1 and has really only had 2 disappointing starts all year long. He had a good day last week versus a great Colts defense. This week he gets another elite defense, Dallas. And
did you watch that game?
Arlington.
He looked terrible.
He ended up with a decent fantasy day.
I suppose that's all that matters on this show.
Yeah. But this week he gets another elite defense, Dallas, and the game is in Arlington. The game has huge playoff implications for Arizona. While only the top team in the conference gets a first-round bye, winning your division still gets you a first-round home playoff game. That is all to say both Dallas and Arizona have a lot at stake, and this will hopefully be an epic game. Kyler, while up against a red-hot defense, Dallas defense, is a must-start, and quite frankly, there aren't a ton of guys, at least in my matchups, that I feel that great about over Kyler outside of Stafford and Josh Allen, which are both clear smash matchup plays. In digging into the matchup research, I found myself comparing the defenses first, since both units are playing very well. But I also saw similarities in Kyler and Dak. Dak is the QB10 on the season. Kyler is QB11. They're within 5 to 6 fantasy points of each other. However, Kyler is a QB3 based on fantasy points per game instead of course, total points.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the defenses, Arizona ranks better in terms of yardage. But as we all know, Dallas leads the league in takeaways, and it ain't close. Actually, it is. That was kind of a lie. Indy is like 2 takeaways behind Dallas. Dallas does, of
surprisingly, course, it's amazing.
Really, both teams. Just that amount of takeaways is really, I don't say historical, because I'm sure there's been more, but it's a ton of takeaways, man, for both Dallas and Indy. But
a lot of yards given up on both sides, and with both teams too, though.
More on Dallas' side. Right. But this is about Dallas and Arizona, so I digress.
Yeah, we're talking about Dallas and Indy too, but yeah.
Yeah, because they're right behind them in takeaways. Again, back to Dallas and Arizona and some of the similarities there in defense.
Both teams 11 guys.
Both teams are top 10 with 39 and 37 sacks, respectively.
Oh.
Given Arizona's struggles lately, and by struggles I mean 3 losses in a row, and how hot the Dallas defense is lately, I'll give the nod to Dak between the 2 quarterbacks in terms of star ratings, in terms of stars.
For sure.
Kyler is a low-end QB1 this week, so still a QB1, and probably might throw a pick or 2 versus his Dallas defense, but still, 3.75 stars is a low-end QB1. On to the running backs for the Cardinals. We'll get to Dak's rating in a second. Connor has a heel injury. He did practice Thursday, so as of now, Thursday, he is trending in. Considering he missed last week, and it's an injury to his foot, meaning, you know, I don't like running backs with injuries to their feet or legs. It's just the way I am. You know, when you have bad wheels, that's really all there is to it.
Once again, Chris, they're humans, not cars.
Where was I?
Or would it be more of a bicycle because there's only 2 legs?
Right.
And 2
Considering
wheels.
He missed last week and it's an injury to his lower body, I am guessing he won't be close to 100%, as close as you can get to 100% at this time of the season. Please understand that. That leaves Edmonds and Connor managers with a decision. My take is Edmonds will get the majority since he's more healthy, number 1. He played great last week, number 2. And number 3, he is the preferred receiving back. Furthermore, if I expect Dak and the Dallas offense to play well versus the Cardinals defense, which I do, more on that later, it would stand to reason that the Cardinals could be behind or in semi-comeback mode. And Edmonds is the guy on the field for that. I know I am beating a dead horse, but the Dallas defense is very good. During their current 4-game win streak, the Dallas defense is averaging 81 rushing yards and 28 receiving yards to opposing running backs. Oh, and they are second best in fantasy points surrendered to running backs. I'm giving Edmonds a solid 2.75 stars as a fine flex play, a top 36 guy, and I'm benching James Conner. On to really the only 2 pass catchers we want to talk about here for the Cardinals. Christian Kirk is still the Arizona wide receiver you want, with an average of 9 targets per game over the last 3 weeks and a total of 1 touchdown. But it didn't amount to much last week. Kirk and Ertz are the only viable pass catching options. If I can talk, pass catching options.
Yeah, you're having some real problems.
But I'm more inclined to lean on Ertz given his position scarcity and the fact he's led the team in targets the last 2 weeks with 24 targets. Dallas stacks up right in the middle, 16th and 17th versus fantasy wide receivers and fantasy tight ends. So right middle of the pack, right about the same, about identical there. I don't like Kirk on the outside versus the Dallas pass rush. Give me a moment. Meaning the Cardinals won't have time to throw to the outside like they would prefer. I know Kirk plays a lot of slot too, but still, he's more, quote, outside than Ertz is. And Ertz seems to be Kyler's...
out.
Exactly. You took the words right out of mouth, especially with Kyler with Ertz being Kyler's new whoopee or, security blanket as it was. I'm going to bench Kirk and give 4 stars to Ertz. On to the Dallas side of the ball. While the Cardinals rank 5th best in fantasy points given up to the quarterback position and sixth best in passing yardage surrendered. I have a ton, and they have a ton of sacks and takeaways. They're giving up an average of 2.5 passing touchdowns and 19.32 fantasy points over the last 4 weeks to the likes of Andy Dalton, yes, Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, and Carson Wentz. And remember, 3 losses in a row. Now, couple that with Dak hopefully getting hot at the right time and that Dallas defense giving Dak more possessions. Dak is a top 5 quarterback this week as far as I'm concerned. I'm giving him 5 stars.
I don't know about that, but okay.
It's a little aggressive, but I also don't think anybody,
I'm not gonna.
I don't think anybody could really go below like 4.25 or 4.5. Like, I don't think it's terribly aggressive. But onto the running backs.
Not enough just to take a stand.
Just a little bit of pushback, a little bit of disagreement. I don't hate that. Yeah. At this point, we basically know what Zeke and Pollard are. Zeke has lost a step or 2. Zeke gets the goal line and short yardage work and the small majority of carries. Zeke is a better pass blocker. Zeke is a top 24 kind of guy with touchdown upside. Pollard will get the ball in space and is very efficient on the ground. Double-digit carries for Pollard usually means a double-digit fantasy point day, given he also sees the majority of targets out of the backfield. Pollard is more of a top 36 flex-worthy guy with upside also. Neither back did a ton in fantasy terms last week, but Zeke did score, and Pollard is hopefully getting healthier. Given that I expect Dallas to have some success through the air, I think there will be scoring opportunities for Dallas in the red zone, the place where Zeke gets the ball. Again, we know they are more or less. Again, we know what they are more or less. I'm going to give 3.25 stars to Zeke and 2.75 stars for Pollard, putting Zeke more solidly in the top 36 and putting Pollard more at the cusp of the top 36.
A little bit of fence riding there. I think you're kind of bearing the lead too. Is that Arizona's run defense, although it was like I mentioned in the Colts matchup earlier with Jonathan Taylor, is that even though they gave up over 100 yards to Taylor, they prevented him from scoring last week, and they have been a top 10 fantasy or a top 10 defense against running backs as far as like they're only allowing the 10th fewest fantasy points to running backs. So it's not a very good matchup.
Well, it's not like I give anybody
for either one of these guys. And your rating reflects that too.
Oh, so you're agreeing more or less with the rating.
Yeah. I'm just trying to put some extra numbers in.
Put some context onto it for sure. Yeah. Again, like you say, you more or less agree with the rating.
I don't know. I'm not like I don't even think you're starting Tony Pollard. I don't think people. I think
okay.
Other than
that was the
you
pushback
having,
I was going to give. Is
I think other than
Pollard
you having Tony Pollard on your dynasty team, I don't think anyone's starting Tony Pollard this week. I think he's injured. I think that Zeke is on the field just enough to really cut into his fantasy relevance. Yeah, can Tony Pollard rip off a big play here? Wait. Can he rip off a big play here and there? Yes, he can. And could he this week? Maybe, probably not though. I think Tony Pollard is an afterthought. And if you have Zeke, maybe you're starting him. Probably looking elsewhere is what I would say.
I think on one hand, I didn't give anybody 4 stars. On the other hand, you make a good point about Pollard's, I guess, floor is the best way to put that. And the last statement I will say, I think you're. You said you don't like running. I think you're over.
Running backs with foot injuries. That's exactly what Pollard has.
Yeah, but he's had it and he's played with it and he played okay.
It's only his second week with it though.
This will be his third.
Is it?
I think so. I may be wrong.
Okay.
Regardless, maybe we're splitting hairs there. I still think if they can limit him like they have been, he'll only get healthier. And the last thing I'll say is I think you're kind of selling how bad the Arizona rush defense has been playing lately. That hasn't been very good.
It hasn't been awful either.
On to the pass catcher, or at least the receivers. Let me put it
That's the one that everyone cares about. And who cares about the Dallas running game?
A lot of people are trying to figure out.
I'm talking for myself.
Okay. On to the receivers. Michael Gallup was a solid fantasy option for about a 4-week stretch when the team was airing it out more and being a little bit more aggressive. Now, with the defense getting healthier with the likes of DeMarcus Lawrence and Randy Gregory joining the fun, Dallas has been less inclined to be aggressive on offense because they don't have to. And Gallup has seen his targets decline to the point he's really kind of not usable. So I'm getting him out of the way early, and I'm going to bench Michael Gallup. Amari finally turned around and had a nice day, catching 7 of his 11 targets for 85 yards and a score, but prior to that had scored over 7 fantasy points only once since week 9. Seed hasn't been much better recently, including last week. As mentioned previously in the matchup, the Cardinals are struggling on defense and have a 3-game losing streak to show for it. They have also given up multiple scores to receivers in each of those 3 games. I will give the nod to Mari as a top 24 kind of guy, a wide receiver 3. That doesn't make sense. Why would I say 5 stars after that? That's dumb.
I'm like, wait a minute. You're saying he's a top 24, but then you're saying he's a wide receiver 3.
I'm going to give 3.25 stars to Amari. That was a complete typo. No, yeah, I'm getting him in the top 24-ish. With 3.25
if he's top 24, he's also top 36 as well, technically.
Right. No, yeah, there was an error there with saying top 24.
No, I got you. Keep going because I have a question.
He is a wide receiver 2. He's a top 24 guy, and he's getting 3.25 stars. CD is a fine flex option with upside. I'll give him 3 stars. Wow,
you're okay.
Speaking of stars, Dalton Schultz has been the real star of the show the last 2 weeks. After struggling in weeks 13 and 14, Schultz has come on as a focal point of the Dallas passing game. He has averaged 8 receptions, 74.5 yards, and 1 touchdown per game over the last 2 weeks, helping him to reach tight end 4 on the season. The Cardinals are, however, second best giving up fantasy points to tight ends. But they haven't played any good tight ends all year. Like, seriously, man. Like, the only good one has been Kittle, and he scored 17 fantasy points. So, yeah.
Dude,
Schultz will be fine. He's a tight end 1. 4 stars. And that, sir, is the end of my matchups.
Okay.
Interject now.
2 questions. One is actually relevant to the conversation. The first one, though, that is not very relevant. Remember what, like 4 or 5 years ago when the Cardinals were like, you were looking like 3 weeks out.
It was at least 2 or 3 years in a row. It was at least 2 in a row. They were just, you targeted them every time for your
epically terrible. Like it was a smash start. Whatever tight end was playing the Cardinals that week was a top like 8 tight end, not even top like 12, top 8, like well, guaranteed like 10 fantasy point.
I think they had a coaching change, and they in that time I think they also drafted Hassan Reddick. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that's the only
Baker
difference.
Was in there as well
in that draft too. Since then, I thought he'd been around a couple more years than Hassan.
It's Buddha's 4th year, so that would be like.
Well, Buddha was there when they were bad.
Right before, or
I think Buddha was hurt. I think Buddha was hurt early on in his rookie year.
Anyways,
that feels right.
So my real relevant question is because you said that it was something along the lines of Cooper Cup. Amari Cooper hasn't had more than 9 fantasy points since you said week 9, 8, right?
Amari turned around, had a nice day, caught 7, blah blah blah. But prior to that, he had scored over 7 fantasy points only once since week 9. So he has done it once.
But has he been injured in that point? Did he miss games
I think I would have mentioned that otherwise.
I thought he was, but maybe I'm wrong. That's why I was like, well,
earlier.
Okay. My bad.
But I can
let's keep rolling, man. We're on the home stretch. Home stretch. I got back-to-back matchups here, so it's a lot of listening to Josh do this. Carolina Panthers at New Orleans Saints. Anyone?
Bueller?
Anyone? Bueller? Oh, Alvin Kamara. Okay, cool. But before we get to him, let's just go through just a little bit of news. Sam Darnold's going to get the nod over Cam Newton this week, which isn't saying much considering Cam Newton has gone 0-5 since joining the Panthers and getting the starting role. This team is bad. At one point in the beginning of the season, Chris, do you remember when Sam Darnold was actually playing decent but turning the ball over? Well, he stopped playing decent and he kept turning the ball over. And then he got injured. And then CMC got injured again. And then it's just this team has been really banged, and even on the defensive side of the ball, this team has been really banged up. Maybe that's going to be enough to save their coach's job. Who was it? Crap, I can't remember.
Say it again. Who's coach?
Their head coach, the Panthers head coach.
Matt Rule.
It might be enough to save his job. They already fired their offensive coordinator.
I think it'll be fine. I think outside of what he tried to do at quarterback,
I want to see
they
one
love
more
what he's
year with
doing.
Matt Rule with them. They need to make a big push for a free agent quarterback or a trade of.
Oh, absolutely. If he doesn't do something at the quarterback position out, anything almost, I say anything, almost anything different than Cam Newton and Sam Darnold, you will probably win like 1 or 2 more games and be like save your job.
I think they gave up a second for Sam Darnold, and that was a mistake. It looked okay at first, and then it's not. Let's move on to DJ Moore here. 2.5 stars for him. This is based on Sam Darnold starting again. The last time these teams faced way back in week 2, DJ Moore had 8 receptions, 79 yards, and a touchdown. That was when Sam Darnold was producing. Please try and look elsewhere. I'm also pretty sure that Marshawn Lattimore did not start for the Saints that week, or I don't even think he played for the Saints secondary that week. So yeah, let's move on to Taysom Hill. Can
I give you a quick asking for a friend in terms of?
Let's go to the end. Just hold on a second. Taysom Hill, he's been activated off the COVID list outside of a 2 quarterback league or a desperation dynasty play. Looking at you, Keith. You're not starting Taysom. Maybe in daily fantasy as well, but Alvin Kamara, 5 stars. But Josh,
wow,
didn't Kamara only score 5 fantasy points the last time these 2 teams met? Well, and that was back in week 2 when Jameis Winston threw 2 interceptions, and Carolina run defense was actually really good. Through week 8, the Panthers rushing defense was giving up only 106.75 rushing yards per game. And that was mainly buoyed by the 245 rushing yard game that the Cowboys put up in week 4. I mean, seriously, it really brought those numbers up. Since then, though, they're giving up 131.86 rushing yards per game. That's just rushing. That's not even counting the receiving that Kamara could easily get in this game. I know Taysom Hill isn't a one to necessarily toss to the running back,
right? But without he's still getting a handful of targets, I feel like.
Yeah, but I mean, there's just not a lot of pass catchers of note for the Saints outside of Kamara. So unfortunately, for me personally in Dynasty Championship, I think Kamara should have a pretty great game here. So once again, 5 stars for him. I'm sorry, you're asking for a friend, sir.
Asking for a friend,
which is you.
DJ Moore. Pick 2. DJ Moore, Alan Lazard, Michael Gallup. I know it's deep. Sorry, it's the only thing I have to play for.
it's the dynasty.
My friend. It is. Yeah. Just
Lazard.
But also, yeah. It's ugly. I know. That's why I brought it up because I also think DJ Moore. Go ahead.
Maybe DJ Moore.
Really? Okay.
I guess.
I don't have a very good answer. That's why I asked you. I just think DJ Moore is a polarizing figure in the last, 4 or 5 weeks. It's like, man, what happened? I used to have a startable
4 or 5. You mean like the last 8?
It's been that good, that long since he's been good?
Pretty much. 4 or 5 would be the start of the Cam Winston.
No, he scored 9. He scored 8 last week, 9.8 the week before that, 11.4 the week before. That's actually not bad.
That's actually not good either.
It is in this league, as you know.
Considering what you were expecting out of him, that's not very good. When you put it in the context of,
oh no, for sure, yeah, it was hot stuff. Going back to the Darnold point, I think
a hot potato at first. Yeah,
I think it's a direct correlation between Darnold throwing reasonably well and the offense running on, I guess you could say, all cylinders at the time, and that was short lived.
I think the Panthers, like the Washington football team, and the Browns there for a little bit too. The Jets at points are just some teams that are just absolutely decimated with injuries. Like just both sides of the ball, top to bottom, left and right, just injury, just plagued with them. Let's move along to the Sunday night matchup here. And once again, you can find the Monday night matchup on our Sunday stream. We like to hold it back. It takes a little bit of work off of us, but it also gets you to maybe tune into the Sunday morning stream, 10 a.m. Central Time. We don't know where you live. We do, but we pretend that we don't. So you do the math. Let's move on to Kirk Cousins here. I don't know what it is about Cousins, but I like him this week, Chris. I really do. I'm going to give him 4.25 stars. That's it. Let's move along to Adam Thielen here. No, I actually have something out, more things right. The last two times these teams met, which was in week 11, Cousins racked up 25.2 fantasy points. Yeah, Cousins has been a bit disappointing as of late, but he's averaged 14.9 fantasy points for the last 3 weeks. That's no reason he can't bounce back from there. Yeah, Thielen's done for the season, but he's still got his wide receiver 1 in Jefferson. Let's keep rolling here because onto those wide receivers here in a second. Well, whatever. Do you know what happens when Dalvin Cook misses a game, Chris? He comes back and Dalvin smash. And week 11 in week 11, Cook had over 100 yards from scrimmage and 1 touchdown against the Packers early on this season. He did miss a game and he came back with like a 4.4 point game. I think he was still injured because he missed the next week again, but then after that, he came back in like a 25-point game. Like usually when Dalvin Cook comes back from an injury, he's trying to, for some reason, it's like he goes up to Mike Zimmer. He's like, dude, I need to make up for last time on the stat line.
They also have an amazing
Mike Zimmer's
backup.
like, okay, whatever. We're like, we'll just give you the ball like 35 times. So I don't care as long as you're producing. And then he goes out there and he bends that team over his knee and spanks them to no end. No sexuality involved, just punishment. Adam Thielen, as I said, he is done for the year with an ankle injury. They put him on season-ending IR. I know that the Vikings maybe have some sort of outside chance of making the playoffs, but yeah, Thielen ain't gonna. Sounds like he's not coming back. Justin Jefferson, I'm gonna give him 3.75 stars. Cousins, he's in the middle of a 3-week dip in fantasy production. Apparently, which apparently has not helped Justin Jefferson. Chris, I used to work with a guy whose name also happened to be Jefferson.
I also think Thielen's absence has hurt Jefferson, but continue. Yeah.
I used to work with a Jefferson. It was not Justin Jefferson. His name was Jefferson. He was a great cook.
First name was Jefferson?
First name.
Love it.
But as I was writing this up, it made me think of Jefferson. I'm not going to say his last name here. But he always, every time he would take a drink, he would do this, and it never annoyed me, but we would sometimes make fun of him for it, like behind his back. And sometimes like right in front of him too. I would like literally like Jefferson standing off to my left and be like, and he just wouldn't even notice it.
Why is your noise canceling? Is it picking? It's not picking you up for some reason. Let me try.
I was afraid of that when I wrote this.
Are you doing a? I don't think it's picking mine up either.
It didn't pick yours up either.
Sorry, folks. I have like a furnace over here. I have to have noise cancellation.
Anyway,
Josh has neighbors. Let's continue.
Like the lip smacking, like commercial, like you didn't hear it again. But yeah, like that's what Jefferson would do every single time. Great guy, like seriously, super nice guy. I really like Jefferson. He's a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Huge, more book than movie. And by the way, Chris, those books suck. Those books are boring.
I'm not going to say I'm the best reader or the most non-lazy person in the world, but I had absolutely no desire to read those stories because of similar analysis that you just gave me. People were like,
they're so boring.
It's not.
They're so boring.
They're too long, and there's so much.
They're not really that long.
Action. They're really? Oh, okay. Like I just feel like there wasn't enough action or something.
400 or 500 pages.
A lot of dialogue. Too much dialogue. Let me put it that way. Is the
too much description? Not enough anything.
But the dude created an amazing world. He really did.
Yeah, it's like an Arthur C. Clarke book. It's just a lot of stuff, like a lot of like big ideas, but not a lot of. Anyways,
it's like being behind the scenes of a dungeon master making a new world.
Yeah. Anyways, okay, so let's move along here. Let's move back to the Jefferson.
Oh, we're not done yet. My bad.
He's probably going to see Jair Alexander, who is currently questionable. It'd be a lot better if he saw the other guy, the other corner for the Packers.
For sure.
Kevin King, I had to look it up when I wrote the notes. Kevin King is actually PFF's number 38 ranked quarterback, but according to some Packer fans I know, and I've actually seen this too, is that Kevin King can be a little bit of a liability. So hopefully Justin Jefferson gets him and not Jair Alexander. And like a liability, that's me. I'm the Kevin King of the show. Let's move on to KJ Osborne here. Chris, should Thielen managers lean on KJ Osborne on this one? No, not the Osborne and of
I don't know. I feel
Oscorp
like the
or the Green
Packers
Goblin.
aren't so great at rushing defense, but they excel at passing defense. So no, I'm not inclined to pick up the second or third passing option for
Yeah.
the Vikings.
Osborne's been kind of touchdown dependent. He does have three
He's made some plays
touchdowns
for
out of the
sure.
last 4 games, so
Yeah.
I guess like maybe 3 stars, maybe. Eh. Listen to the inflection of my voice.
Would you flex him? Would you start him in
Maybe
your flex? Really?
depends on what my lineup was.
Meaning, you said it when you started. You said if you're a Thielen manager hurting, flex worthy.
Back to your asking for a friend.
I was just gonna say
Osborne over who was the options?
Lazard, and DJ Moore. Gallup was the other one. Gallup, Lazard, and DJ Moore, and KJ Osborne.
I would go Osborne and Lazard.
Oh,
Yep, it makes me sick too.
over
Aaron
Gallup
Rodgers,
and
I'm
DJ
giving
Moore.
him 5 stars. Aaron Rodgers has 4 games under 20 points this season, and he missed a game too. So that's technically 5, but only 4.
Yeah.
4 that he's played in. The last time these teams tangled, Rodgers had his best fantasy game of the year, which was
Wow.
33.5 points. Why is he behind Justin Herbert, who has 5 games under 20 points? Because Herbie also has a 40-point game and 2 30-point games as well. Herbie's just been balling. Let's move on to Aaron Jones here.
Yep.
A.J. Dillon is getting just enough work to take a meaningful cut out of Aaron Jones' fantasy value. Jones wasn't available in the last game versus Minnesota. The Vikings are giving up the 10th most points to running backs at 18.9 points per game. So there's points available here. I just wouldn't expect the moon from Aaron Jones this week. So I'm going to give him 3.5 stars. AJ Dillon, I'm moving on to him with 2 stars. Like I said, he's getting a meaningful cut out of Aaron Jones, but it's enough to bring Aaron Jones from like, oh, maybe he could be a running back 1 to he's definitely in your RB2 category this week.
Okay.
And AJ Dillon, I gave him 2 stars. Like he's flex at best, and that's more of a desperation flex, And Devontae Adams, of course, is getting the 5 stars because Aaron Rodgers is getting the 5 stars. If Aaron Rodgers is going to score 20 plus points, you better believe that Devontae Adams is going to be in on that.
Oh yeah.
Alan Lazard and MVS, if MVS plays,
Yeah.
I'm giving them both like 2.5. Like I really would prefer
What
not
is
to lean on
MVS's
them,
deal
but
right now? What is MVS's deal? I don't even know.
I don't know. He's not the greatest wide receiver in the world.
No, I mean, like, is he hurt? You said if he plays.
Yeah, he's been kind of in and out of practices. I know he has been playing, but I would prefer to start Lazard over him. So I'm going to give like Lazard, I guess, a nice 3 stars. It seems like Aaron Rodgers has gone to bat for him in the past, and actually, there's maybe a bit of a bromance or something going on between these two. Like
Lazard or Scantling?
Lazard. Devontae Adams is Aaron Rodgers' man, but like Lazard is out there, and if he's out there, he's getting targeted. So
Okay.
I mean, you can't
Deny that. Okay. I hear you.
Chris, this show has been going on for forever. Let's call it a day. Cool.
But let's end it on a positive note. Folks, tune in next week for a end of season recap.
Probably part 1 of 2 or 3.
An off-season primer. We'll give you a really good idea of what we're going to approach the off-season with.
We don't know yet.
Have a good time. Put a pin on the season. But yes, this is the last really actionable show we're doing for the year.
It's your fantasy championship. You shouldn't be playing in the last week of the season. Although, if there was ever a year where teams like, what team is going to start sitting players this week or next week? I don't think any of them.
Having said that, I agree. I don't think I came up upon.
But this is a rare, like, we also didn't know, like, that's why with our Friends with Benefit League, it ended in week 16 because who knows? I didn't know what was going to go on this year. I didn't expect that there was going to be a level of mediocrity that struck every single team at one point in the season. Seriously, even the best teams.
A giant blanket of COVID on top of all that, Josh.
Oh, yeah. All right, so you can tune in to our Sunday morning stream, which is on
down.
YouTube, of course. If you're listening to us in podcast format, you can check us out on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search it for Amazing Fantasy Football. That's where you'll see my ugly mug and Chris's whatever you want to call his face over there. I mean, that's subjective. We'll figure that out one of these days. Anyways, sure. We have been Amazing Fantasy Football. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks. We wish you all the best of luck for your finals this week. If you're in the finals, hopefully we helped you get there. Please stay tuned for the off season. We will have content coming out, whether it be streaming or it being player videos or whatever. We will be having content coming out at least on a semi-regular basis, or we will try. There will be breaks in there because it's the off season, but we will continue to have content coming out. So please,
right here on YouTube,
keep tuning in. If you're listening to us in podcast format, that's probably going to fall off a little bit. Maybe we'll try and focus on getting some podcast format out, some stuff out. Maybe one of us focuses on audio and the other one focuses on video. We don't know yet. We're going to fight it out on off camera. You don't really want to see that. I mean, there's a lot of swearing at each other, a lot of name calling.
There usually is anyway, so it's okay.
Chris called me Kelly once. It was weird. It's not even his wife's name. He's also done that before too.
What?
It was odd. It was awkward for both of us. Anyways, best of luck to all of you this week. Best of luck to all of you in your finals. Thank you for checking us out. We love you all. Have a good night, day, whenever you're listening to this.
Hasta luego.